Definitely. That's see, that's what I love that you said that too. It's like that reflection period where instead of like staying in that emotional state where like this is what I should be expecting. We'll get into sales expectations later on as well, but like that whole like expectation of like, man, like this is gonna happen so much more now because I just got this done. And I'm
Yep.
feeling the high of it. So I can do it. It's gonna happen more often. Actually, maybe we can talk about that right now as a sales expectation since we're kind of on that topic. Like I love that
Yeah.
you said that you like you reflected and you figured out like what happened, how did I do that, and how can I do that more. So like what do you like for you that was a very different mindset for your first close as opposed to someone that would traditionally just start out. That's probably more the side they would swing on is the I'm expecting this to happen all the time now, or I'm expecting sales to be easy. What was your mentality going into, the sales territory? Or did you have similar expectations? What did that look like for you? And what should they be also?
Yeah, yeah. So when I first started, just overall my career in sales, I was fortunate enough to have a good sales mentor
Right.
that set up the expectations properly for me. I'm very competitive by nature. I played, a lot of sports throughout my life. Soccer, yes, happened to be the main one, and I always compete. I always competed with everyone else, not in a bad way. It's like, how can I be better? That's how I always asked to
Mhm.
continue just to challenge myself. So, he told me the industry standards at the time for the what I was selling at the time. Um, out of 10 people that I talked to, I was going to close. Excuse me, I was going to close six of them, right? So 60% closing with an average order. It was products at a time with an average order of $300, and it was a 30% commission. So I was like, okay, cool, not bad, right? So I was like, okay. So I just kind of went in and just trusted the numbers and didn't get caught up with again emotional roller coaster of, hey, two no sales, then $1,000 order, and then one more no sale, and then $100 order, and so on and so forth, right? Because if you get caught up in that, you're literally going to go through the roller coaster,
Yeah.
right? So I mainly just first focus on the which I know we'll talk about later, but like the KPIs, but the KPIs that is what sets up your expectations, though, right?
Okay.
So I look at that in the numbers all the time. I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. And then once I've done enough of whatever I have done, then I assess. I'm like, okay, is it time for me to pivot? Is it time for me to add? Whatever it may be. But I always just expect at first to hit the averages. So now when I launch, like for example, my first company, my very first offering, I didn't have anyone to tell me, hey, this is what we have been doing. These are the KPIs,
Right.
right? This is what you should be expecting. I looked at what everyone else is doing, but with this one thought in mind. So I was like, okay, cool. This company, based on what I'm seeing and what they're doing, they're probably closing, out of the 10 people, and according to the industry, they're calling out of the 10 people, they're closing two. Now, I'm new. I don't have the same brand reputation. I don't have, and, there's just 5 years ahead of me, but 5 years is also a long time,
It's a
right?
lot of sales calls that yeah.
Yeah. So, I go, okay, if they're closing 10, excuse me, 2 out of 10, I'm going to close 1 out of 10. Let me set that expectation up, right? So this way, if I do like just close 1 out of 10, I'm like, cool, that's where exactly where I need to be. If I don't, if I close a little bit better, I'm excited, and it's okay to be excited, right? Uh, but then remember, you have your other benchmark, which is to compete with whoever the top guys are, right? And you can kind of keep striving towards that, and you're allowed to, you know, you have that wiggle room to continue to work versus like, yeah, man, you know what? I did 2 out of 10. I'm like, I'm the boss, right? But you did 2 out of 10, maybe one week. Can you do that again the next week, and so on and so forth? And then now it's time to level up and do 3 out of 10, and so on and so forth.
Right. It's all about measuring everything, I would imagine, right? From like
Yep.
the KPIs, yes, but also down to like what went right. How did I get that pay in full and why didn't this one pay in full? what objections did I not handle correctly that made them, not just risk it all, like quote unquote, right? Just throw all the investment
Yeah.
in. So yeah, there's a lot of like mental strength that goes into sales calls. Cause I think a lot of people that have ever done sales, give up too early. They give up too soon. I mean, you were fortunate to close your third one right off the gate. So you got a taste of success right away. But for those, guys that I've talked to and girls as well that have done sales for like 5-6 months without a single sale, and they still are at it. So it's a mental game. It's tough. Sales is no joke, man. So I tip my hat off to professionals like you, man. Seriously, it's tough. It's tough out there.
Thanks.
The expectations will get you. I think that's what makes or breaks a lot of people is the expectations. Like you said, it's good to get excited, but it's also okay to feel this sucks. I haven't closed anything yet. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna happen. As long as you stick things out, it's gonna happen regardless. The only times you can fail, like that quote goes, the only way you can fail is if you actually quit. So, I'm sure if you took 6 calls, didn't close any, but on the 10th one, right? On the 10th call, you actually closed it. Great. Now you're meeting your 1 to 10. So you never know what's going to happen. You never know when it's going to really kick in and start getting those cash collected. So
Yeah, and the only way is to make sure you stay true to KPI is to treat every single one of those sales calls as their own island, their own world, right?
right.
Because, and I mean, I'll tell you the very, when I first started again selling back to product selling, it was direct sales. It's probably one of the toughest, aside from door to door,
Yeah.
toughest things to be in it when it comes to the realm of sales. One appointment was very different from the next, and I needed to show up that way. Same it's going to be for your sales calls when you guys, show up to them, because if you treat both of them the same, you're going to get the same results, right?
Mhm.
Which is, again, 8 times out of 10, whatever the KPI is, most times you're not selling. It's just a fact, right? There's very, 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 very few people in the world that are selling more than they're actually not selling,
Right.
right? If there's any that exists, by the way. If you know somebody, please let me know because I want to be coached by them. But
Totally, man.
I mean, think about it. Not even Apple, which is arguably one of the largest brands in the world, there's still millions of people that chose Android over Apple, meaning they're
Sure.
not being sold on Apple, right? So, but going back to what I was saying, you got to treat them as individual islands or individual worlds, whatever resonates with you the most.
Right.
There was a time that, I mean, it was probably one of my worst presentations ever. Like I got ripped apart mid presentation. Like this has never happened to me. It was the first time to ever, and I'm like, like I'm in complete shock, right? And I kind of gathered myself and I got ready for the next presentation, which by the way was another no sell. If you thought I was gonna say I sold them the next one, I
Yeah,
didn't.
I'm like, next one you got it, right?
But the one right after that, after 2 no sales, like one of the worst calls by far in my career, and then another one, it's just your typical no sale, right?
Yeah.
But then on the third call of the day, that was decent sized sales. It was a slightly above average when it comes to the numbers, and I felt pretty good. But again, that would have never happened if I let my emotion carry from the call before or the call even before that, right?
Right.
Because then the issues would have been an awful day versus an awful call.
Yeah, got it. That's totally, yeah. Not to dwell on the things that went wrong. You know what I mean? So it's preparation is really important. Like, did you practice the presentation before any of the calls? Did you do a kind of like a dry run at home? Anything like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, every day I'm looking at my offer every single day. And was when I was sending my own offer or when even prior to that, right? Kind of like practice with sports, right? You got to practice so you can get really good at it. You got to practice so you have mastered it, right? So every single day, just kind of like to start out my day before I send out any messages or anything, I literally just spend 15, 20 minutes looking at it, when it's a brand new offer, by the way, it's like the first time you're selling it. Like I say, like role play it to yourself. Like I was that crazy guy, literally in the mirror reading it. Then I took it to the next level, by the way, which I would go on Zoom and record myself and then listen
Yeah.
to myself.
Dang,
Right.
nice dedication.
Um, yeah. But yeah, that was, as far as preparation goes, that's, step one. The other thing, which is one of the things that I learned from that awful call that got ripped apart,
Mhm.
was that, not understanding, or if you will, listening to the prospect, right? Don't ask the questions to ask a question and get an answer and move on to the next.
Yeah,
Ask the question to understand their situation, to
yeah,
understand where they're at. I have asked the same questions 5 times in slightly different ways every single time. And I don't move on until I get the answer that I'm looking for.
right.
Because then what's that going to happen is you're going to have a back call. You're probably not going to close them. And it's just going to, yeah.
Wasting your time at that point, right? Not gathering
Yep.
the information that you need to move into the next stage of the conversation. So definitely, dude. That's I think that's one thing that beginning like if you're taking a sales call and you're new, I feel like that's really easy to slip into that is to be able to just blow through the script, kind of thing. Just
Mm.
running through the script. But I ran through it. I ran through all the script. So I'm glad you said that, dude. That's not something that's really talked about ever, is don't move on until you ask that question and get an answer that's going to answer the question you just asked, even if it's in 5 different variations. So like that can be kind of intimidating to do that because they might feel embarrassed, like they're gonna say, well, you just asked me that, didn't you? Yeah, but you didn't answer it. That was the problem. Right? Have you ever gotten that when people are like, but didn't you just ask me that? I thought I answered that.
Yeah. So, yes, of course I got in that. So, when they say something like that, it's like, hey, didn't I thought I answered that? I thought I told you that already. First of all, like 9 out of 10 people, they're not going to be upset about it. So it's okay. Like, don't feel embarrassed. Don't hope to get yelled at because you probably won't, right? Except for that one. There's always that one person, right? But again, you'll go through lots of nice people before you get to that one person.
Yeah.
But if when I do get that, because again, it does come every now and then, rarely.
Yeah.
I say something along the lines. It's like, yeah, so I'm being honest with you, I quite didn't, get exactly what you said. I just want to make sure I'm fully understanding what you're saying, before we can move on, because I don't want to give you any misinformation or misdirect you in any way, shape, or form. And then I just kind of repeat back a little bit of what they said, the way I understood it, right? And then I just asked them to like, so can you just clarify what you mean when you said that, you used to get 100 leads, but now you maybe only get like 5 leads, ups and flows, or whatever it was question that I was asking, right?
Right.
I kind of like spit back like their answer, um, and they usually just, they clarify that, or elaborate a little bit more depending what I said.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. I think like that would probably be the hardest part. Like even for my personality, I'm such a people pleaser, man, that it's like it's hard for me to like drill into the actual question to get the answer and help me move into the next stage. Because then otherwise, and I've been guilty of this in the past too, where I'm like, oh, okay, cool, 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 cool. No idea what they just said. All right, next question, right? And kind of moving on. The next thing I know, I'm off the call. Like, even if they did close, I'm like, great. Now, what was their problem? What did they need to solve? Like, what was it that I needed to do? So, like, really
Right, right.
super important and getting everything you need. Just real quick, do you take notes during the sales calls as well? Like, do you just type notes and write notes, or
Yeah, I'll show you my hack. So I use this little notepad, or you can also use these little note cards right here.
okay,
Right. And the reason why I do that is because I take a lot of notes. I can easily take a lot of notes. I used to do like, white sheets of paper. But then I'll fill out the whole page for one person.
right,
And going back to what I was saying, now I'm paying attention to more to the notes that I'm taking versus what they're saying it and
right,
how they're saying things.
yeah,
So yes, it's important to take notes, but you don't need like a whole,
a
you know,
page.
page.
Okay, born
Yeah.
in Chicago, they said. They hated being cold, moved to California. Got it. Like, what is that? What relevant is that? Just put Chicago, arrow, California, sun. All right, cool. No, just kidding. Not really
Right.
important. But the rapport building, again, the weather, cheesy. So yeah, man, I love that. It's awesome. So I actually want to stop here and we're going to continue the conversation on sales KPIs. So we'll see you guys
Yeah.
next lesson.